Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Britt, creator of the StyleShaker, your guide to greener, cleaner beauty. And today I'm back with some tips about concealer. So I just want to say I'm not a makeup artist. I'm just a normal person trying to figure out how to apply concealer without it looking terrible. I've tried lots of different concealers. It's less about the actual favorite concealers and more about how I figured out how to apply it in a way that actually works. If you want to hear more about that, then stick around and let's get in. I see some of these tutorials put on so much, so that's what we know and that's what we try and do, and then we bake it, and then there's powder and there's sponges. Ugh. And I love to watch that, by the way. Like Nikki tutorials, I could watch that all day. I love her, she's amazing. But for me and everyday use, these steps have really significantly improved my concealer game. I have a couple of concealers in front of me, not saying these are my #1 favorites. If you want to see those, by the way, I have them out on Britt's Picks. It's the Spring 2020 guide. There's two different main types of concealers that I've been using. It is the concealer that's in a pot, something like this, or like the RMS on Cover Up. Some of those can run more creamy, I would say, a little bit more oil to them, so they're a bit more moisturizing, a little lower coverage, more natural of a look. I'm not going to use those in this, I guess, tutorial. I hesitate to say that, just kind of sharing the info. I'm not going to use those as much because I feel like those are really basic, easy, one and done. You apply it and then you go on your way. And then I have the doe-foot concealers that I like to use quite a bit. So these are just the two that I will use for this kind of demo. And I will start with this pot concealer. It's the Juice Beauty concealer. I have concealer on, so let me just quickly take that off and I will be right back. I'm going to talk more about under eye concealers as well. I just want to note that. Less about the spot treatment on the face. I have this Juice Beauty concealer, right? It warms up and melts a little bit to the touch. This is in the shade Cream, 08 Cream. Gotta figure out a better way to do this. I did find a sanitization method with alcohol and water, so working on that. I use my finger here for thicker creams like that in a pot. Some are silkier, like the Hint is a little bit silkier and possibly easier to work with, but those might crease a little bit more if you have fine lines. I want to mention that. So this is more mature skin. I am not talking about the Shape Tape that a 20-year-old would put on all over the face, and maybe not just 20-year-olds. I'm in my late 30s and I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's important to know context for age. It's also important to know that I have combination skin. It's usually a little bit more out of whack, but since switching over to a new skincare routine, it's been more balanced. So what that means is I'm not having as much oil production on the lid. Some people have very oily lids. I'm not gonna be able to address all of that in this one video. It's more of like a one-on-one kind of thing. For now, just know I'm coming at this with combination skin. I usually prime this with a little bit of moisture. It automatically happens when I use oils in the morning from that routine I just mentioned, but in this instance, I'll just apply a little bit of the 100% pure caffeine bean eye cream. It's light enough weight, smells delish. I'm a fan. With my new stuff, I don't use this as much, just keeping it real here. But anyway. All right, so I have this on the finger and I'm really gonna focus on the corner first. Very light presses here, okay? And I only put a very small amount, tiny, tiny. I lightly pressed, feather light touch, 3 times. Then I just use my finger to blend that in. For me, the finger usually works the best, especially with these pots. I'll show you how I use brushes. That's all I did. I just did it in the corner. Then I slowly take a hand that doesn't have any product on it and I bring it out. And if you use a brush, that's not a bad thing. I just prefer a finger here. It gives me a little bit more control. That's it for the inner corner, and then I will take it and do kind of the same thing on the outer corner. And I just use the residual underneath if I need it, and then just bring it down here and blend it in. And if you want to get brighter and brighter, then you can keep doing it with your finger and the pot, but if you really want to build, I would suggest going in with a brush that has a little bit more of an angled tip on it. Actually, it's probably easier to see it like this. Or you can just use a straight across brush, and I would just go in and apply on top, tiny bit. And then another trick that I do, say you haven't put on your eyeliner yet, but you want to put it on and then it runs a little bit or it gets a little messy. This is a really great thing to do. It really lifts. It looks like you're doing it though, you know what I mean? This is not like you're, oh, I naturally look lifted like this. It's also a very flattering thing. Just bring the concealer. A lot of people do this, so you may have already seen it. Again, not a makeup artist. I'm just figuring these things out as I go and finding what I like and sharing. So I just cleaned up that line. Brings this eye. Do you see how it's already lifted on the edge a little bit compared to this one? I know there's lighting. This is why I also don't do tutorials, because tutorials take a very different lighting setup. I'm aware of that, by the way, so I'm not gonna be doing a ton of these. Just did it because I know you guys were wanting it. I'll turn it down a little bit so you can kind of see. Phew, just lifted it right up. Granted, I have a little wing there that's helping. It's basically bolstering the wing. It's just fun. It's just a nice thing to do. It's also probably nice after a long day and you're maybe need to go out. God, can't wait till we can do that again. But anyway, going out and you just want some quick touch up, this is something you can do. You could just take a little bit on your brush, go like this and this, instead of dipping your finger into the pot end of the day and doing the whole area. You just don't need it. So that is the example using the Cream Pot Concealer, in this case the Juice Beauty Concealer. Now I'm gonna take this off, just rub my eyeball to death, just kidding. I use jojoba oil, any oil, okay? You can use coconut, a lot of people are allergic to it. Sesame oil, almond oil, just gotta check what your skin can handle. And this will just take it off without pulling. And it's moisturizing. Multitasker. All right, I'm gonna go remove this and then I will be right back in a sec. Applicator, I should also mention that cream concealers like this that don't have coconut oil and aren't smoother like that, they warm to the touch, they don't just come off instantly smooth, if you know what I mean. So I'm referring to an RMS on Cover Up or a Hint. Something like this or the Air Perez concealer, I've had a couple of them on here. They warm to the touch and melt that way. Usually by using the technique that I just used, I don't need to set, which is a nice thing because it means one less layer and they're not heavily setting into fine lines. Now, if you have a doe-foot applicator, in my experience, I have found not just the applicator, but if you have a concealer, it has a little bit more of a smooth gliding sensation. Sometimes that means there's silicones in it, sometimes it doesn't. But the Ilia True Skin Serum Concealer, this is the previous packaging. They've since rebranded. This has a doe-foot applicator and it's flat. It's not one of the poofier doe-foot applicators. I find that easier to work with. I'm a fan. But these I usually need to set. Now I have oil in my eye and I'm wearing contacts. Awesome. So I do the same thing, kinda. I pop it in the center, except it's a lot less. See, I just have a dot in the center. I'm using my finger. I also love this concealer because it spreads out, gives quick, light coverage. A lot of people have told me that when they use this, it instantly goes into their fine lines. I have fine lines, I have circles. I don't have dark circles as much, so I'm not really speaking to that segment of the population. Still, this, when you use just a little bit and start spreading it down, for me, that really does a nice job. You'll notice I haven't even gone here yet. Haven't gone to the center. Because I don't think you really, I don't know, I don't think I really need it. I'll talk about myself because I might frustrate people who are actually amazing makeup artists. And I respect the makeup artists, I really do. I learned so much from you guys. Instead of going and drawing a big line across the whole under eye, what I did was I looked down and I'm like, okay, one of the bags starts here, okay? I just put it in the shadow. It's like drawing when you were in art class, you know what I mean? Is this just me? I don't know. I put it where the shadow is. It brings that shadow forward. Basically like highlights and shadows from Art 101, kinda. You with me? It's a nice upward light that prevents things from looking heavy and dark and shadowy. I haven't put any concealer underneath. I have literally glided it out. I have also glided it down here. These, and somebody said this about the Kosas concealer, I'm not a big fan of it, but people have said that they've used that all over the face just to cover things up as a lightweight source of coverage that looks very natural because you're not using a lot of it. So I think that's a wonderful option. I love the consistency and how this is slicker. I just know that I need to use less. And the other thing I will say, you know how I did this with the other concealer? I can still do that with this, but you really need to not use a lot, or else if you have crow's feet, AKA you've smiled a lot in your life, congratulations. I think that's a good thing. Anyway, just trying to put a positive spin on it, okay? Let's not get mad at ourselves for being on the planet longer than most. we're lucky. Sorry, soapbox, moving off. If you do this on the edge, you're going to want to really press it in, but it cleans up the line nicely again. So it's like, whoop, lifts. There are other places you can do this. You can do this around like the bridge. You can do this. A lot of people actually get to the ruddiness underneath their nose because there's broken capillaries, which I have. So you can just do that. It's another spot, but there's like a lot of different things you can do with concealer. I would recommend searching YouTube for that. Wayne Goss is amazing for tips. There's a lot of people, but I will throw out his name here. He's also just, he comes across as just an incredible human being. I would love to make this sort of a sharing circle kind of. So if you have a person you love looking at online at YouTube, let's support them, include their name and their channel below, share it, and then we can kind of help other creators on the channel and you guys can get some great tips along the way. I'm a fan of these amazing creators. Now I'm just spot treating a little redness here. Stuff works really well because it's slicker and I already have oils on my face. Anyway, I could just keep like boop, 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 boop. And then this type of a concealer, I will use a finer powder. Lots of feedback on powders. Some people love them, some people don't. Some people see flashback. Some people don't like the plume that comes. I get it. I don't mind it as much, but I just put the lightest layer. It actually looks heavy, but it's really so light of the RMS on Cover Up. And what I do here, it's important I keep this light because if I don't, it sits on top, my skin looks real dry. If it's working correctly, and it barely feel it, but middle of the day, end of the day, I've touched my skin here and I can still feel that powder surface. Not see it, I can feel it, and it keeps the concealer where it needs to be. It really helps. It also really helps on the lid. I would say if you have oily lids, that's not going to cut it. It's just not in my experience. People need primers for that. I don't really know of a great lid primer. I've tried the Ilia primer. There's a few out there that I want to try. I think it was the Ilia Pure had an eyelid primer, but I do know that's a problem. I would just try and keep the amount of product that you use very minimal, because if you go step by step with just a little bit and little bit and little bit and little bit, you can blend it in a little bit better so it doesn't end up sitting on top as much. This is, again, my experience. Those are the ways I've done it. You can use these brushes, just get into the corners, get under here if you want to. That's another thing. I try not to go right under the lash line because that's where a lot of my fine lines are. I'm kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I've had them for a while, but because of the shape of my eye and because it kind of has a little bit of protruding out here, I can see that there's some creases here. So I'm not going to add more product there because throughout the day it will crease. Now, the last thing, for those of you that have stuck around, this is a really good thing that I just learned, okay? Congrats for sticking around. If I'm gonna take a different type of concealer, either or, this works on either or of the items that I showed you. So let's say the cream concealer, right? If you have bags under your eyes or dark circles, or you're worried about things falling into fine lines, try this. It might work for you. It has worked for me. It's subtle, but it's effective. So I'm trying not to put too much on or else I'm gonna look like an insane person. See how there's shadows here, right? Apply it when you look like this, when you look down, instead of looking up, you're not able to access the surface area here. Because of the angle, you are applying it while looking in the mirror. So look down, apply. You're going to get into more of the crevasses this way. I know this might seem really weird, but it was actually a genius hack I learned. Then set it like this too. Powder, setting it, facing down, looking up. Face down, look up. Like, you know, the top eyelid. If you were to apply like this versus applying like this, it would be a very different experience. I just want to be able to access all of it as easily as I can by moving my head that way. Plus you can freak people out, you know? Everyone's putting on their makeup and you're over there like this. I feel like that would be a fun game. That's it. That's all I have for some concealer tips. These are easy ways to approach concealer in a way that's not slathering it on. I feel like, I don't know, even in my 20s I wasn't applying it like that. I wasn't really even into makeup in my 20s. I know, gasp. What? I wanted to share it with you because I'm guessing you're also struggling with this. Give these a try and let me know if either of them work. If you have any hacks, let us know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up to support the channel. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another video like this one. I'm gonna go put all this stuff away and yeah, play with some more products because that's what I do. All right, see you guys real soon. Bye.